Hello everyone, it's Jen from Old Tinkerer Studio. Welcome to the first Let's Create Blender 2.8 tutorial. In this tutorial, we will be modeling a bungalow. This tutorial was requested by Gabriel Giles. This tutorial series assumes that you know the basics of Blender modeling. Please note that this tutorial is using Blender 2.8. The link for downloading this version is in the description below. Also, please note that I have my version set to select with the right mouse button, just like Blender 2.7, and I have my spacebar set to search, just like Blender 2.7. It's also important that you go to your user preferences, and under the Interface tab, make sure that you have Auto Perspective unchecked. This will prevent any odd issues with modeling, such as weird angles or odd loop cuts. So let's start by making the house base. First, go to your Render tab. We're just going to change the render engine to cycles. And then go to the modeling workspace. Change into orthographic view. If you go under the scene tab, you can change your units. For me, I'm going to change to imperial, which means that every one of these squares is now going to be a foot, since that's what I set my length to. If you have it still under metric and length is meters, then every one of the squares will be a meter. So I'm going to change to imperial, and then scale the cube, the house base, to the desired size. Now select your top face, and then extrude it along the z-axis to the desired roof height. Then select the top two vertices on the front of the roof section, and then merge them in the center. And then repeat this for the back of the house. Now we're going to make some shiplap for the siding of the first floor of the house. So go ahead and add a cube, which will act as our shiplap. And go ahead and scale it down to the desired size. Add two horizontal loops to the front of the shiplap, and then scale them along the z-axis to the outer edges. And what this is going to represent is the tongue and groove of the shiplap, so make sure that you're fairly close to the outer edges. Go ahead and select the center face and extrude it out just a little bit. Give it a little bit of depth. Select the entire shiplap and make it a separate object. Tab into object mode. Make sure you have everything deselected, and then select your shiplap again. And then move it to the bottom of the wall. And once you have it in place, add an array modifier. And we want the relative offset to be 1 on the z-axis. And then change the count to cover the first floor of your building. Apply your modifier. Select both meshes and then join them. Tab into edit mode. And then what we need to do is duplicate the shiplap and place it on the other 3 walls. Now we're going to add our wood border. So add another cube. Then scale it down to the desired size. And these are going to go on the 4 corners of the building as well as the top and bottom of the first floor. And go ahead and place the wood border on the front corner of the house. Then make duplicates for the other 3 corners of the house. Then make duplicates for the top and the bottom of the sides of the house. Now we're going to work on the door. Go ahead and add another cube for our door. Then scale it to the desired size. Select the front face and inset it. Then extrude it back along the y-axis. Then add any embellishments that you want, such as the window frames or any kind of decoration for the front of the door. When you're done, go ahead and align the door to the front of the house. Then what we need to do is this bottom plate, we need to scale it down so it fits on the left side of the door, then duplicate it to the right side of the door. Now we're going to add a very simple doorknob. So go ahead and add a UV sphere. Rotate it around the x-axis 90 degrees. Now select the center ring of faces as well as the second ring of faces. Then extrude them along the y-axis. And then flatten them along the y-axis. And scale the whole doorknob and place it on the door. Now we're going to work on the windows. Select the original door frame and duplicate it. And then scale it down to the size of the window that you want. And then add any embellishments that you want to, just like you did with the door. And duplicate your window and place it around the first floor of the building. Once you have the first floor done, duplicate a window and place it on the front of the second story in the roof and scale it if you need to. Now we're going to work on the roof. So select the two sections of the roof and extrude them. Then select the two edges of the roof and extrude them. And make sure that they match the rest of the angle of the roof line. Select the top faces of the roof. Duplicate them. And extrude them along the Z-axis. These are going to be our rafters. Go ahead and select this whole new section that's going to be our rafter and scale along the Y-axis. And then move it down below the existing roof line. Once you have the first rafter in place, simply duplicate the rafter and distribute them evenly along the edge of the roof line. Now select the front and back parts of the roof. And then extrude them so they overhang the first floor. Now add another cube. This is going to be a horizontal rafter. And scale it to the desired size. Just need to make sure that it extends past the front and the back of the roof line. Rotate it by 45 degrees around the Y-axis. And then align it under the existing roof line, right in the center. Then make two duplicates and align them along the lower edges of the roof line. Now we're going to work on the metal roof. So again, select the top faces to your roof. Duplicate them, then extrude them along the Z-axis. And then scale them along the Y-axis. These are going to be the sections of the metal roof that kind of pop up where the two sections meet. And once you have your first one made, go ahead and make duplicates, and again align them along the roof line just like you did the rafters. Now go ahead and add a cube, and this is going to be the ridge along the top of the roof. And scale it to the desired size. Just make sure that it extends the entire length of the roof. Rotate the ridge around the y-axis by 45 degrees and then place it on top of the metal roof. Now we're going to work on the slab that the house is going to be sitting on, as well as the step. Add a cube for a slab, and then scale it to the proper size for the house as well as the front porch. Once you have the slab made, go ahead and add another cube for the step. Scale it to the size that you want it. And then align the step to the front of the slab. Now we're going to work on the porch roof. Add another cube that's going to act as our porch roof, and then scale it to the desired size. Go ahead and align the porch roof to the top of the first floor. And add another cube, and this is going to be the rafter for the porch. And scale it to your desired size. Make sure you have the rafter aligned to the bottom of the porch roof. And then, just like we did for the roof of the house, duplicate your rafters and space them evenly along the bottom of the roof. Now we're going to work on the porch columns. Add another cube to act as the initial porch column and scale it to your desired size. It should be about 3/4 of the height between the bottom of the roof and the top of the slab. Duplicate the top and bottom faces. Extrude them along the Z-axis. And then scale them along the X and Y axes. Now repeat this process a second time. Duplicate the very bottom faces. Extrude along the Z-axis. And then scale them along the X and Y axes. This is going to act as a bit of a slab between the wood and the actual stone base. And select the interfaces of the cap that we just made. And then extrude them down along the Z-axis. That will be the stone part of the column. Then select your entire column and scale it and place it into the proper spot on the porch. And duplicate the column and place them around the porch. Now we're going to add our railing. Let's go ahead and add a cube, which is going to be our railing cap. And scale it to your desired size. Select this railing cap, duplicate it, and then separate it so you have a top and bottom for the caps. Duplicate one of the railing caps and rotate it by 90 degrees. This is going to act as our baluster. Scale it to the proper size. And duplicate the baluster and place them evenly between the two railing caps. Now duplicate the railing and place it on the other sides of the porch. And the one last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a base to this, which we'll just use as our grass area. Go ahead and add another cube. And then scale it to the desired size. And make sure you have the grass placed underneath the slab. Now we're just going to do a very simple unwrapping. Let's go to the UV editing workspace. Select your entire model. And you'll see since we use primitives, it is pretty much already unwrapped for us, but we're going to do this differently. Hit U to unwrap, and you can just use the Smart UV Project. Give it a little bit of island margin. And hit OK. Then under the UV menu, go down to Export UV Layout. And then save your UV layout. Now we're going to work on some very simple materials. Let's go to the shading workspace. Open up your materials tab. Make sure that you're in object mode and just go ahead and delete the default material. Then tab into edit mode. Then down here where you see the UV editor, go ahead and open up the UV that you just saved. Then in the materials tab, add a new material. We'll just call this grass. And then assign it a green base color. I'm using the hex code of 99A84D. Go ahead and just let it be assigned to your entire model. Add a second material. We'll call this one metal. give it a base color of gray using the hex code of 848789, and then assign this to your doorknob. Add another new material. We'll call this concrete. And assign a red base color. I'm using the hex code of 672422. And then assign this material to the slab and the step. Add a new material, call it stone, and give it a gray base color. I'm going to use the hex code of 72848E, and then assign it to the lower parts of the columns. Add a new material, call it wood, and give it a brown base color. I'm using the hex code of 8B, 5A, 2B. And then assign the material to all of the wood except for the shiplap. Add a new material, call this shiplap. Give it a light yellow base color. I'm going to use the hex code of E7D387, and then assign it to your shiplap. Add a new material, call it stucco, and give it a cream color base color. I'm using the hex code of E7E2D1, and then assign it to the second floor in the front and the back. Add a new material, call it window, and give it a light blue base color. I'm using the hex code of CDDE7, and assign it to the windows. Add another color and name it roof, and give it a red base color. I'm using the hex code of B6444B, and then assign it to the metal roof. In the node editor, we need to add a texture. Let's go ahead and add an image texture. And then open up the UV that you have. Copy the image texture and paste it on each of your material. Under your Render tab, twirl open the section that says Bake. We'll leave the bake type as combined, since this is just a very simple texture. And then click Bake. Once your UV is baked, don't forget to save the new UV. Just open up the hamburger menu, these three lines right here. Go to Image, and then Save As. And there you have your very simple bungalow. I hope you found this useful. If you follow along with this tutorial or any of my tutorials, please tweet me your creations. The link is in the description. If you have any questions or suggestions for tutorials, please leave a comment below and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day.